Alright, after us being extremely late for our appointment, because some people in this elevator made us late. But now we're on our way to our doctor's appointment. Come on, Kai. You go to C. That'd be the problem, see? That's what happens when you don't go to doctor's appointments. You don't know nothing. So sad. You can see if you gave. That sounds like the same.
54.
That sounds like the
Come on
same.
here. You came here.
Since the last appointment? You done gained the whole PM. How you feel about your PM?
I'm hungry.
You're a big John. Look at your face.
I'm hungry.
You leaving again? Kyle, what are you doing? His brother is over there. And they're all.
Something like that. But I mean, it's going up so fast. I mean, I think they're ahead of schedule. Like, that's the outside structure.
He's so big.
T-Rex.
How's he doing with the Dexcom? Still going okay?
It is okay, except for now. He has an issue. I think I don't know what him and his brother was doing yesterday, so that Dexcom is hanging for the wing of the prayer right now. It's hanging.
Yeah.
It's hanging.
Do you have extra of the tape at home in case you need it, or do you need more?
No, that's the last one.
Okay.
No.
No, that one right there.
The tape, you know, he knows he
You got
got
more
tape.
of that?
Oh yeah, we got more of that.
Yeah.
T-Rex is big.
So that one is hanging on. It's hanging on. It has to hang on until Thursday.
I put something on it.
I know you did put something on there.
I did.
Oh, you did that? Oh, you put that on there. Oh. Ain't you something else? I don't think it's working though, because I still hear you beeping.
It's not because he pulled it out of skin.
So why you put tape on there?
Are
Crazy.
you getting like an error message or something?
Keep it
On
on.
Yeah, because
Oh, a lot of blood on this. Too. Look.
thanks to you and your brother.
All right, come on, let me check the
For
film.
everybody.
I don't want the AirPod anymore.
So you need to figure out which one you think worked best for your little life.
I don't want both.
All right, so the first thing we'll do, paper, it's just one of those mornings. Nothing wants to go right. Okay. Let's try.
There. How do you miss it all
He
done?
did look like a T-Rex. Now he look like a big squirrel.
Oh, you did a good job.
Who made a T-Rex?
He like a big squirrel right now.
You did a good job.
What's wrong? The tail?
You look good.
Tail is too long.
Let me turn your.
All of the same places that you guys would give insulin shots, you can put the pump site.
Okay.
So if we were going to use his belly, this just goes flat on his belly, okay? There's a couple circles that you would press to put it on, and then we press to make it stick, and then we take, so the needle's out,
Okay.
and then this is really what's left on the body, okay? The little
Okay.
infusion.
Okay, that's not big. Okay.
Yeah, because I was about to say
Jesus,
he ain't gonna
okay.
let us do
Right,
that.
he's not going to want you, right?
Yeah, I thought we was gonna have to manually stick it. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do that.
Yeah, so there actually are ones that are manual inserters, but most patients go with the one that has the inserter device.
Yeah. think most parents would want to
Yeah,
go
that
on
would.
it.
And then the pump comes with a case that has a clip on it. So, or you could leave it like this and it just goes into
Yeah,
a zip
it's fine,
pouch.
though.
Okay, so really this is what you would see on the body.
Yeah, I mean, if we would get
And that's
that,
small
then we
now.
would have to do the stomach because the arm,
Yeah, the arm's tricky because if you have a site on the arm, then the tubing goes up the arm and down the sleeve, and that can, some kids are fine with it, they don't mind it, but other kids not as much.
Right.
Now,
Now,
will he be able to, like, okay, say if he doesn't want to do the stomach, for instance, sorry,
yes.
will he be able to use the Dexcom and whatever on the same arm, or will we have
So
to
the
alternate?
Dexcom has to be 3 inches away from a pump site or
Okay.
injection site. So
Okay.
most kids, if they're using arms, they put the Dexcom on one arm and the pump on the other.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so this pump can get, like, it's not waterproof, but it is a little bit water resistant. So
Yeah,
if it got
that's
wet,
cool.
you just dry it off, but you don't really recommend swimming, showering, or bathing with it.
Okay.
So then what happens is you just disconnect the tubing. So you squeeze the ridges. So the pump can go, you know, someplace safe, and then this piece is waterproof. So when kids are swimming, taking a bath, this is what's on the body.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then when you're ready to hook back up, you just do that.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, now every 3 days, then you'll have to take this off, take the cartridge off, throw the tubing away, and then you take the infusion site off, which really is just like peeling a Band-Aid, like his Dexcom.
Okay.
And then this is all that actually sits in his fat tissue. You can touch it. It's like a little straw or tube.
okay. Not bad.
You see that?
Okay, it's a little harder than the Dexcom.
Yeah, a little bit
Okay.
harder. This one is a 6 millimeter, which most kids his age use. There are longer ones, but we usually use those for our older kids.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
kids that have a lot more fat tissue.
Yeah, no, he don't have that.
yeah.
much. Yeah, he's little.
So we would teach you how to do all of these steps when you come back for the pump training. Okay. Now, one thing that can happen with pump sites is this little tube can bend or kink. Okay.
I remember
So
you
what do you
saying
think
that.
would happen if the tube bent or kinked?
They get stuck in the skin?
So it won't get stuck in his
Insulin
sting,
is
but
not
the
going to
insulin then is not going to go
okay.
through. Now, if his insulin is not absorbing, how would you guys know?
From his looks.
From the way he looks,
Yeah.
right? If he acts differently when his
Right.
when he's not getting enough insulin, or what would you guys? How would you know his blood sugar is going up?
With Dexcom,
With the
first and
Dexcom, right?
foremost.
Yeah. So there are times, sometimes where this kinks, but if you're doing a good job paying attention to the blood sugars, and maybe you give him insulin, and 3 hours later his blood sugar has not come down, and you're like, why is he still high?
Right.
You have to suspect maybe there's something wrong with the pump site.
Okay.
All right, so we'll review that again in a minute, but that's essentially how the pump is delivering the insulin. So the pump actually works 2 different ways. We program what we call a basal rate, and we program bolus doses. So, have you heard the term basal and bolus before? Okay.
I remember we
I think
talked about
we talked
that.
about it the last class. But basically, basal insulin is the body's background insulin. It's what he needs when he's not eating and through the night. Okay? So think about, for those of us without diabetes, our pancreas is giving us a little bit of insulin all the time. We can put a show on too if you think that'll help. I don't know. It's up to you guys.
Not him. Maybe him. I don't know.
You want to watch cartoon guy with Chucky?
You want me to put something on the TV?
No, I'm gonna do my giraffe.
You're okay with building? Okay.
No.
Fine. And actually, so with this particular pump, which is the tslim pump, to bolus, you guys would touch the bolus button. And you can see the screen shows you, okay, carbs. We enter carbs on the left-hand side. So you would type, let's say he's eating 18 grams. You could also use this as a calculator. So you could do 18 plus 7 plus 3 equals 28 grams. So it loaded the 28.
And then add
The
his
right
blood
hand
sugar.
side, you would look at Dexcom and say, okay, his blood sugar is 128. Hit done. The pump, this particular pump does say, okay, he's above his target of 120. Do you want us to add a correction? And you would say, sure, give us a little bit of insulin for that. And then the pump calculates the dose. Now, the dose here is different than his dose because the
Right,
settings are
'cause the
different. But see, you can see how precise a pump can be, right?
I like that.
That's what I need in my life.
Yes. Now you can also see how the pump calculated the dose. It'll tell you for carbs it wants to give 5.6, for correction 0.7. So it does kind of show you all these different screens, and then you would hit next. There's all these safety screens, confirmation screens to make sure you're giving
That
the
you're
right
giving
amount.
The right amount.
and then you say yes, and then you say deliver. So what the pump's gonna do is it's gonna push the insulin into that infusion set that was sitting on his site. Okay, so it slowly pushes that 6.3 in. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So that's how the pump essentially works. So it is something additional he has to wear, but you can see now the steps to actually dose insulin can be a lot faster, and he doesn't have to get an injection. It's just pressing buttons on the screen.
So he really won't notice it too much.
Correct.
And it's not too much of stopping his party.
Correct, exactly.
So that's not
okay. So this is how the tandem pump works.
So say if we accidentally forgets, would it do it for us?
So sometime in the future, eventually there'll be some automation with some things, but the pump doesn't know he's eating.
Okay.
The pump eventually, so not to jump ahead, but pumps on the market are trying to work with Dexcom. Okay, so pump is trying to do some integration and work together with Dexcom. So what I mean by that is, to answer your question, this pump currently, the Dexcom readings can go over to it, okay?
Okay, that one it can. Okay,
yes, so tandem it can, the G6 readings can go over to it. So this could actually receive information, and the phone device could.
Okay.
Currently, where do his Dexcom's read? You can do a pump and a smartphone device. You just can't do a pump and a Dexcom receiver.
Okay.
The benefit of that is, if his glucose is starting to drop low, or it actually drops low, the pump can automatically stop giving these drips of insulin to try and prevent a low blood sugar. Okay? So that is what automation tandem can do currently.
Okay, all right.
Eventually, the tandem pump will be able to do some automation to try and prevent highs as well. It just isn't ready. It's not available yet. Okay. Probably by the end of this year, that may be available.
And does it push updates like,
like your phone?
Yeah.
Yes. So very good question. So the tandem pump actually can do software updates. So when new features come out, you do have the option to do a software update to your pump to get those new features. Now, some of the new features is not as simple as we do the update and we're good to go. Some of them you do have to either come in for training to learn how to use that new feature, or there's like a webinar you guys would watch on your computer. And you'll get instructions through the company how to do that. Okay. So all of this technology is trying to make your lives easier and have more time in range for his glucose readings, right? And for him. Yep. So that's kind of in a nutshell how the tandem pump works. A couple things about pumps. So the tandem pump can hold a full 300 units in his cartridge, but he probably doesn't get near that much insulin in 3 days, right? So he's only getting...
Hey, little person.
Lantis is about 4 units per day. Do you know how much Humalog he typically gets in a day?
It
depends on the day, right?
It depends on the day and how he's moving.
So we definitely would not fill 300 units in here because you're going to waste most of it after 3 days, right? So we would help figure out how much insulin should you really put into a cartridge to get you through the 3 days. We would do that when you guys come in for training, okay? Pumps do have safety features built in. So whenever we turn this pump on, you can see we have to unlock it by hitting the 1 and the 2 and the 3.
Okay, so like with this time.
The other thing that this pump can do is we can actually lock it even further. By turning on a feature lock. So I just want to explain this because, but do you see how now the bolus went gray? And when I go into options, there's several things that are kind of grayed out or dimmed out. That's because when we put the feature lock on, it prevents you from bolusing. It prevents you from changing cartridge. It prevents you from making any setting changes. So some parents with younger kids do like to turn that feature lock on. This way, they don't have to get worried that if another little kid or your own or he kind of started playing around with the pump, he wouldn't be able to actually do things. But I will tell you, if we just teach him, regardless of what pump you choose, that this is a medical device. You should not be touching this device. If it makes noise or it starts vibrating, you need to let an adult know. And the adult will figure out what to do, okay? You want to teach him that at his age, he should not be playing around with the pump screens, okay? But that's another safety feature you guys could use with this pump, okay?
No, not yours.
The other thing that pumps do is they also have like
Push that back.
maximum bolus amounts, meaning
It's falling.
you could set, you know, the bolus dose that you couldn't deliver more than 4 units at a time. So if accidentally you did program in the wrong number of carbs or the blood sugar wrong, and it calculated 10 units, and you're like, oh my gosh, he never gets 10 units. You could have a safety feature where you couldn't give more than a certain amount of units without it giving you like an alert saying, hey, that's
sure
more
you
than
wanna
it
do
usually
this?
gets. Are you sure you want to do this?
Okay.
So there are several things built into pumps to keep them safe. But we just teach our younger kids that an adult is who touches the pump. Your job is if it's making noise or it's vibrating, that you let an adult know. Now he's never by himself, but so an adult may actually hear the pump alarming, or you may hear it alarming, but we want to make sure he knows that as well. Okay?
Little person.
I got a Roddy telling me something.
You can took over his blocks. That's why he ain't playing with him.
No, he was throwing them at him.
So what you think about this pump, guy?
Do you want to look at this one?
Yes, come on.
No.
Come look.
Look at it. Simple
Yeah,
sound.
you can look at it. So just want to explain how you would get your insulin. So tell me how you get your insulin now. What happens when it's time to eat?
Give me a shot.
You get a shot, right? So instead of getting a shot, there would be like a sticker that you would wear on your body, and it has a tiny little tube. Can you feel that? No, just like a straw, right? So think about the Dexcom, right? When you wear the Dexcom, there's a tiny little wire that sits in your fat tissue, right? And that helps figure out what your glucose is or your blood sugar. Yeah. So with the pump, there'd be a sticker. We could maybe put it on your belly.
Yeah, we can put it on your belly.
And then we would have tubing that connects to the sticker, okay?
And that would be your insulin pump.
And this is one type of pump that's there, okay? So we would keep it in your little spy belt, or that little pouch you wear.
Put it in your
right?
pouch.
Put it right in here, okay? And then when you get your insulin,
Kai, you need to pay attention. This is for you.
see? So then when it's time to eat and you're ready to get your insulin, mommy or daddy or another adult would actually just plug in the information. They would put in the carbs you're eating. They would type in your blood sugar. Okay, but instead of you getting a shot for your insulin, guess what? All they would do is just have to press a button.
And it's already going in
Okay?
there from
And then the
your
insulin goes through the tubing into that little tube in your belly. Instead of getting a shot, it would just do that.
Me.
What do you think about that?
Me.
Maybe?
I mean, you got enough fat in your belly. It's a little bit there.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Do you
So
ever
you
use
gonna
his upper
More
butt?
than enough hair.
it falls off. That
It does there.
Dexcom
Yeah,
falls.
because when he starts wrestling or rolling
Oh,
around,
yep.
And it's not that much fat back there.
Okay.
It's still a little back there.
Then we could maybe try out his arms. Now, there's another pump out there called Medtronic. But Medtronic, you can see it's a little bit bigger and bulkier, right?
I think a guy on my route had, the older guy.
Oh, really?
I was just talking to him about it. He
Okay.
doesn't have a Dexcom though, so I
Okay.
don't know.
The Medtronic pump, though, does not work with Dexcom directly. It has its own sensor that it works with directly. So most kids who are already on a Dexcom don't typically
Use
use
that
the
one.
Medtronic pump,
Okay.
only because they're two completely different companies and they're not,
Meshing together.
probably not, just so you have an idea of what that one looks like.
So that means he would have to switch over everything. His Dexcom and
The
stuff.
Medtronic sensor and transmitter look like this. Okay? Now, just to compare, because I can't be biased, I have to tell you everything about the products. This is a 7-day sensor. So now you're going from 10 days to every 7-day changes. This you have to calibrate. So in order to keep it
that's the
reading
one that you was
accurate,
telling me about.
you have to
okay.
calibrate it every 12 hours, meaning I have to still do finger sticks every 12 hours to keep getting sensor data, okay? And then the other comparison is this, you cannot, like when it's time to do a meal, you guys just look at Dexcom and use that number to dose off of, right? This one, even though the sensor's giving you data, you still have to do a finger stick in order to give insulin. So this one is a little bit more work
It's a little bit
currently
more
than what
90s.
Dexcom is.
That's
It's
like-
not.
Yeah,
It's
it's
toward
like
the
old
future.
school.
Yeah,
That's
that's
like
old
a
school.
bad card that I don't
So
know.
eventually they will improve and they'll catch up to Dexcom, but right now most families are
Yeah, I'm
sticking
not,
with Dexcom
Yeah, no.
and and then they're choosing a pump that either is going to work with
Yeah.
Dexcom or will in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
that's.
Yeah, I like.
But I want to tell you that this pump is out there because I can't Just ignore
Yeah,
it.
no, well, you can go ahead and put that card back. We can put that back because I remember you saying something about.
So,
Jesus, that's the monitor. Good Lord. That's
so
a big
this is the
monitor.
pump. Okay. So instead of there being tubing, this is the Omnipod and it's a tubeless pump. Okay. So the way that this one gets inserted is you guys actually just take tape off the back of the pod. You would tape the pod to the spot. Okay, there's no tubing, but then there's a remote that communicates with the pod. Okay, now you guys would fill the pod. There's a port on the back. You see the little arrow?
Right.
The port on the back is what you would take a syringe and needle and fill insulin into that port, and you would fill enough for 3 days. Okay.
3 days.
So similar to the cartridge on the back of the tandem pump, but the cartridge is basically the pod. Okay. Then to insert the pod, you just use what we call a personal diabetes manager or a PDM. Okay, it's like a remote.
That's cute. That's a cute name.
And you basically hit some buttons, and it automatically tells the pod, like the Dexcom, to kind of put the infusion set in. So it puts the little tube in. The needle goes in and out real quick, but the little tube stays in. So it's just a tiny little tube.
Okay.
Feel that?
Okay.
But there's no like button pressing here. All you do is press a button here and it automatically does it.
Oh, okay.
So the insertion process is a little bit quicker, right?
Opposed to
As opposed to the T-Slim, right? Now this, what sits on the body is a little bit bulkier, but there's no tubing. So, and this is waterproof. So he could swim, shower, bathe with it. But it's a little bit bulkier. But some families say, you know what? I think this would be better because of how active he is.
Right.
How well will we be able to keep this on him?
Right.
I don't know. So we just let you know that there's options, and you don't need to decide today what you think is going to work best.
Okay.
We actually do have demo pods that just are stickers. So if you guys want to take a demo pod home, stick it on his belly and see how well does he tolerate it, how well does it stay on. You can do that.
Did
you try one before?
No, they gave me.
You know, when kids have pumps with tubing, you know, he has to, and maybe he'll be fine with this, but you know, he'll have to sit still, you'll have to, because the pump is the only place you can dose from.
Okay.
So, you know, you have to pull the pump out while he's sitting with you. The nice thing about this is, you know, this just has to stay within 5 feet of him when you're giving the dose. So he could be sitting across the table from you and you guys could be giving the insulin.
Okay.
Or in the middle of the night if he was high and you needed to correct, you can just take this out and do it while he's sleeping versus the pump. You would have to kind of pull it out of his pouch and grab it and dose it. But you figure out, you have to think about what's best for him and what's going to work best.
Now,
Okay?
are both of them the same amount of time? Like, okay, you said this lasts for 3 days now.
Yeah.
How long does this last?
3 days. Yep.
Okay.
So same thing. Every 3 days, you peel the pod off, you throw it away, and you'll fill a whole new pod with insulin and insert it. Okay? So there's 2 different PDMs that work with pods.
Okay.
Your insurance will tell you which one it's going to cover. One comes through pharmacy benefit. One comes through what we call durable medical equipment benefit.
Okay. I
Um,
feel like his is going to be on the durable medical.
and if that's the case, it would be this one. If it comes through pharmacy, it would be this one. So,
That's it.
do you want to hold my lion?
You want to take Lenny?
You hold Lenny, give him a hug.
You going to beat him up? Okay.
That's good to be him up. That's not nice.
Give him a hug.
You want to give him some medicine? No? Okay.
Okay. So just to give you an example then of how this would work. So when you're getting ready to give insulin, you would just go to the bolus menu. Again, we would program all the settings. You guys would hit select. Enter current BG, so you could type in the blood sugar from the Dexcom. Are you going to eat now? If he is, you say yes. If no, you would say no. And then you type in the carbs. And then again, it's saying, okay, these are the values you want to use, confirm, and then it gives you the dose, and then you hit enter, confirm, and then this will tell the pod to drip the insulin in.
Okay.
Okay? So that's how these work. Now, just to add some more information, because this is helpful, the T-Slim pump is a rechargeable pump. So just like a phone, you would have to charge it up. At least every couple days, it would tell you when it needs to be charged, like when the battery's going low. Most families are charging it like 10 to 15 minutes a night.
Okay.
Now, it can charge when he's wearing it, Or a lot of families charge it when the kids are in the bath, the shower.
Right, so.
He's disconnected anyway. We just kind of charge it up while he's taking the shower or bath at night.
Yeah, that was my next question about that. Like, we have to take that off of him. Would that stop the insulin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would just tell the pump that I'm suspending or stopping the insulin while he's taking the shower or the bath.
Okay.
Yep. And now the Omnipod, there is no suspending because this can go in the tub with him, right? This can stay on. But the Omnipod, the PDM itself, so this has its own internal battery. The PDM uses AAA batteries.
Oh, what? Oh, hell no! Oh, hell no! Oh, hell no! What the hell?
I know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? Some families are like, I don't even remember charging my cell phone. I'm never going to keep a pump charged. I'd rather go with the, regular batteries.
So if they get this one, that one just charges like a regular charger. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and the PDM, this PDM is actually a locked down Android device.
Okay.
So this PDM is more touchscreen. When you compare the two, this looks kind of old school, but your insurance will determine currently which one it would cover. Okay.
Yeah, because I ain't finna be putting no day
I was gonna say
trades.
that too. 'Cause
Yes.
I don't even have batteries.
You might love Omnipod and they might say, this is what we cover. And you'll be like, all right, eventually insurances may start to cover this. But right now we don't know until we kind of contact the company and find out.
If we do buy, if it is Android based, now say if we do buy like an Android, can we do it like put the app on there ourselves and use it that way?
So not yet. So right now, this device is only programmed to work with Omnipod.
Okay.
Eventually, pump companies are trying to get approval for your own smart device, so your phone, the child's phone, to download an app that then can be the dosing of the pump. Can do that, but it still has to go through FDA approval and all that stuff. Yeah, so currently, if you got this, there are some apps that parents can have to view data, but there's no apps that allow you to dose the insulin through your own phone yet. Okay. So that's kind of Omnipod. Do you have any specific questions about either of these devices?
I like both of them.
I'm stuck in between the two.
So sometimes what happens is you call the sales rep for Tandem and you call the sales rep for Omnipod, and one of them says, your insurance doesn't cover this device right now. And then your decision's kind of made for you. Or they say, your insurance covers it, but this is what your out-of-pocket cost would be. And so sometimes families have to just sort of decide.
Well, he has Medicaid, so he should be cool. They should cover
Yeah, they should cover all of it. Some, depending on the exact type of insurance, some patients, Omnipod just isn't covered right now. And so they end up going with the other pump, but it sounds like both of the pumps could be of benefit to him.
I like both of them.
They both have kind of their own
I'm about to
pros and cons.
I like this
one. One got a good quality where a person like myself might get something, and I can go in there and make sure that it gets corrected. And then that one right there is more of I don't have to worry about if he go pour water on himself or he go do something.
Get out of there.
And this is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna sit you with the security guards.
The security guards are
You're a little
downstairs.
explorer,
Yes,
huh?
he is.
You want to play with my belly? You want to play with my squishy belly? What's that?
See, there you go. Why you in his business, nosy? Okay, you're gonna step on the belly. Okay.
No, we're putting in your mouth.
All right, there's so many decisions to choose from.
Omnipod, just so you guys know, is eventually next year going to work with Dexcom G6. So whichever...
Oh, so that one doesn't even work with Dexcom?
Not yet, but that's okay. It doesn't matter if it does or doesn't. Some patients don't even have Dexcoms and they're using Omnipod. It just means right now, his sensor's going to give you sensor data. The pump will deliver insulin, but they just aren't going to do anything automatic together.
Okay, so
eventually
this one
there will be some automatic.
we would have to put in whatever the Dexcom has in here.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and this one we don't have to
Well,
put the Dexcom in because
the Dexcom data appears,
on here.
but you still currently have to still look at it and then type the number in. Okay? But just know both of them will start to do more integration or work more together with Dexcom G6. Okay?
They're really phasing out. Dexcom taking over. They like Apple.
To a degree, yes.
Yeah, to a degree, it's like,
Yeah.
we're going to make sure we're the only CGM you have on the market. There's nobody else.
Which isn't bad.
The they have their issues and their hang-ups
I
sometimes.
mean, on Apple, the only thing with them is the battery most of the time. And
Oh, it's awful.
upgrades.
I know.
As didn't see, we have 3 different pump options.
I'm picking mine. I gotta pick my pumps.
There's 3 different pump options. They have this one, which is the Medtronic, and it has to work cohesively with both of these things. So it's a little old school, barbaric, but it may work for like older people. I'm not too sure. We didn't go through the demo with this one because I didn't feel the need for this one at that point. And then we have the tslim, which is the wired one, guys, and it has some pretty cool features. It's what the doctor said is pretty halfway waterproof, but it's not all the way waterproof.
All right, I think I'm gonna have to go to a different computer because this printer is not.
That's that one. And then we also have what most kids on Facebook is having is the Omnipod. I'm sorry, this Kyrie is banging on everything, so you can't hear anything. So these are the displays, sort of like what the Dexcom has, but this is one, and then this is one, and it just is it depends on which your insurance provider is going to give you on whether you're going to get this one or this one as a device. This one looks pretty cool, guys, in my personal opinion, because it looks like an iPhone. This one is like really big and clunky, but these are the devices, and this is the Omnipod here. That's the Omnipod. Anyway. And that is, I'm not too sure if you guys can see the cannula for the, it's right here. That's the cannula for the Omnipod, and it has instructions on here. So, ooh,
Put this one back.
you'll put the insulin in that little hole. So that's that part. And there's the cannula for the tslim. I'll wait for my, there we go. That's the cannula that actually will go inside of him. And I'll do a side-by-side comparison of the two. So this one, the Omnipod, looks a little bit thicker than the tslim. But that's that part of this whole little day. And this is detachable. This little piece is detachable. And it comes off. And you guys can see. That's what the insulin pump thing is at. So, this insulin pump training class has been halfway successful because it was for insulin pump information. So that way we can find out about insulin pumps. I'm sorry, guys. That's Mamie being a butthole.
Move the chair.
And this is the stuff for the tslim. This is your infusion set. That's the name of this thing. And this is the wiring and the tubing. I'm pretty sure my camera picked up where she was going over that stuff, so I'm hoping it did, but this is what it looks like in the pack. And here is what the Omnipod looks like in the pack. So you guys get a pretty good sense of the two. And this must be the old school thing that I said I didn't want. Okay, Medtronic. This is the Medtronic pack. So I think this probably was ideal for diabetics in the 80s or something. I don't really know. We didn't talk about any of this stuff, but I'm almost for sure that's how it works, guys. Anyway, this has been like a pretty neat situation for us to learn about the different insulin pumps that were offered and learn what one may work for him and which ones well, let's just look. You can leave it there. I think she's gonna come back in. Let's look at some of the feet. Okay, so this is what the monitor looks like. This looks kind of cool. I'm gonna try to see. I can't. I don't have a pen. I don't have the pen to unlock it, but it looks just like an iPhone. So it also shows you on here. I'm thinking it's like an iPhone, guys. I'm sorry. It shows you on here that there's no pod, so that's kind of cool. So that's it. We're not gonna deal with that one because I don't know the pin to get in there. I'm trying to turn the big one on. Like, I really don't like the, no, I really don't like this device. It's like really big and clunky. I don't really like big things. This is just too big, but this is the home screen for that one. So it reminds you sort of his Dexcom, but it's way bigger than that. So it's almost, I want to say, half the size of my iPhone, and I have an iPhone XR, so it's pretty big. It's a pretty big size. So I want to say this phone is probably like an iPhone SE, similar to an iPhone SE. So the comparison of the two, that's how big that apparatus is. So I'm really not with durable equipment being this big. I don't like stuff that big as far as equipment. So personally, we're going to go home and we're going to chitter chat about which ones we think is best. I'm pretty sure Dad wasn't paying that much attention because he never pays attention to anything. Because as you can see, guys, in the video, he's asking about nighttime shots, and we're not even here for nighttime shots. We're here for insulin pump training. So Dad missed the memo of what was going on there. So normally, you know, I would be giving him bars right now, but I'm going to let Dad have a break today because, as you guys know, he made us late this morning. And as you guys know, I had my pajamas on because we were almost late dealing with Dad. And that's why he's not saying anything, because he know he was out of pocket. So he's a nut for that, and he can't say nothing because there's nothing he can say because I punch him in his throat, and he can't fight. If y'all ain't know, he can't fight. He can't fight. And he made us forget Leamy diapers, and Leamy is pissy, so that means that somebody has to go to the store and buy. It's gonna pop. Bakes with the tslim. Because you know what? Dad should be trying to figure these things out, but Dad is not even getting the feel of which one he likes because he's a sucker MC.
What? Why is that?
He's a sucker MC.
Why are you saying that?
Stop moving the table.
Why are you saying that?
I don't need
Stop
to get the
moving
feel
the
of
table.
anything that I already know by looking at it, which one I would want to go to.
So which one are you thinking of going to?
Say talk about it.
I'm asking the question. So anyway, I'm believing this comes with the tslim. I'm believing it does. And on the back, how she explained it to us, it's fairly a decent, it's a heavy piece of metal. It's really heavy. It's really, really heavy. It's not really heavy, but it's a little sturdy. It's a little sturdy. Kai, I'm trying to tell the people about what's going on with the pumps, bruh. And you over here hitting me with the darn bags. Anyway. Not bags, gloves. It's a little indentation right here, and I'm going to show you guys where I believe it takes that off. And this is disposable. This is, I thought it was probably a little heavier than what it was. Should have been, because it matches so well with the rest of the equipment. But this is what you would switch out every 3 days. And that goes for the Omnipod and I believe the Medtronic as well. All 3 of these pumps you change out every, she said 3 days, right?
Yeah.
Every 3 days. And you guys will see in a video of her explaining everything else. And these are the cartridges.
Hold it.
And this
Who
is
made
what goes in the
that?
trash.
Hell.
Now this key, I'm sorry, I meant to ask you that. This comes with these things, right? To take
Yeah,
this off.
yep. So you'll get 2 of those that'll come with that pump.
Okay, so you get 2 of these. Okay.
I take back. I got choice.
You can't put it on your
Can you
head.
put it there? How about on your nose?
No.
All right, come on.
Come on, crazy.
Your
You wanna put it
arm,
on your arm? You wanna do it on your
yeah,
leg, your
side,
belly?
where?
Where you want to put it in?
It's just a sticker.
It's not going. It's a
Look,
sticker.
all it's gonna be is a sticker.
What did it hurt?
No.
No.
No,
It's a
literally,
sticker.
I'm not doing anything with needles. All we're gonna do is peel this off
And put it on.
and put it on like a sticker. This is not a real pump. It's just a practice, just to see how well it sticks.
So where do you want to put it?
No, because the lion isn't.
'Cause it's for you.
It's for you
Simple.
to see if it works.
Come
To
on,
see if
Kanye.
you could,
Come on,
to see
Kanye.
if this would actually be something that maybe you would try.
Yes.
Where do you want it at? Where would you like it at?
Yeah, you tell us.
On
Your arm?
Okay.
So you're
Okay.
going to put it back on your arms. You know, worst case scenario, you might not be able to put those on your arms. So you're going to have to get used to your belly.
Or your back part. Or your leg somewhere.
So, are you dropping him back off at school today or no?
No.
I'm not going. I'm
This
not
is his
going.
party. This
I'm
is his
not going
party.
back to school.
This is his party.
Oh, okay.
This is pre-birthday.
Wait, when's your birthday?
2 months.
It's tomorrow. Ain't 2 more months.
It's
crazy.
tomorrow. Happy early birthday.
Say thank you.
You're gonna be 7?
800.
800.
You like a turtle.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
All right, look. All I'm doing is taping it. Okay? It's just sticky tape, like a sticker. See? That's all. Okay?
It won't hurt.
Just a sticker.
Now, with either one of those that we decide on, is it still going to leave like that red? As you guys can see, we are finally about to get ourselves on board for a pump, which is awesome, 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 awesome. It took 2 years in the making because he's actually been diagnosed with diabetes now for 2 years. Yesterday was his 2-year anniversary. So he's been diagnosed with diabetes for 2 years now. So that is this part of this. We just got him on the Dexcom as of last year. So he's been on the Dexcom for a year. And now we are going to see what pump works or what pump we like for him or that is ideal for me and Dad to work on. I don't know why I look so dark today, guys. Come in. So that's what we're going to do.
Watch out, Sarah.
Here's your Omnipod brochure, and then here's your tslim brochure. So this one also has Brian's information on it. This one has...
Yeah, I got this one in the car.
Yeah, I think I took that from outside in the front. Was it outside in the front? No.
No, I know it was in my door.
These are brochures, guys. This is the brochure for the Omnipod. And Kyrie has a demo pod
I'll give you
on.
this brochure because it says Andy's.
Oh, I'm about to say, I don't want that Medtronic one. I'm about to say, no, ma'am, I don't want that one. I don't
That
want
has
that one.
Andy's information too.
And then we also have the tslim here. Their book is it. They must be the Apple of the situation. They're Apple. And they're Android. They're Apple. And this is Android. You can tell by the brochures how, you know, they just want the step above. Stuff. All right, guys. So this is what we have. So you guys don't have any questions because I won't post this video until later on. So you won't know. But if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. We are out of here. I got to go.